it's to entertainment to watching House of the Dragon Season 1 Episode 8, Lord of the Tides, which is Corlys Velaryon. What's going to happen to him? I have just finished watching the previous episode. I am so excited for this one. I'm so freaking stressed for this one. A reminder that, as always, you can find the unedited version of this reaction on my Patreon, and let's go.
On his death, the sea passes.
To Lucerys Velaryon, as is my lord husband's desire.
I am the sea snake's own blood. The closest kin he has left.
Be careful, good brother. None can take your words for treason.
Plus, he does have granddaughters, if nothing else.
I speak the truth, Rhaenys.
He doesn't want to see his family go out the family holdings.
By a man who... And while I should like your support, I do not
Fuck.
need it.
Succession wars all over the
Times
place.
have shifted.
I don't expect you to learn High Valyrian in a day, Jace.
A king should honor the traditions of his forebears.
And you will learn it in time.
Unless you're planning to...
Whatever disagreements we may have had, she's not cruel. Stupid enough to do that.
Disagreements? She believes we had her son killed.
Uh-huh.
So we might marry.
Yes. Has the viper's venom spread so far?
Those vipers rule in my father's name. And
I
my
mean,
father-
you did want the whole world to think you killed Laenor to make people afraid. What else is she supposed to think? That's the kid he's gonna want on the throne. It's a little incest baby. I mean, the ancient Egyptians thought it was okay for their royalty to do incest, so no one there to greet them.
Your guests have arrived, Your Grace.
I trust they've been welcomed as befits their station.
As you instructed, Lord Hand.
What hand instructs here?
It's my understanding.
I do beg your pardon, my lords.
Battle is preparing. Because anything Otto ordered that they be greeted by basically nobody. What is wrong with him? Is it like leprosy or...
It has been so long.
It has.
The sea snake has taken a grave wound in battle in the Stepstones.
Straight to business.
Throne.
They need him.
This is Aegon.
Aegon.
And this...
Aegon. They named one of their kids Aegon when she already has a brother called Aegon. Oof. Power plays. Feel sorry for the strong boys. Would Daemon ever be okay with Jace becoming king when he has sons of his own?
When I turned, I didn't see him.
Jesus
I asked him to
Christ.
stop, Your Grace.
Aegon is not fit to be king, but that wouldn't matter to Westeros. Men.
Thank you. I believe you. You do? I do.
Scared for this girl.
And though I believe you were not to blame, others might not be so trusting.
Manipulating this poor girl.
The prince, or worse.
Would like to point out that unless I'm very mistaken, and I really hope I am, Daemon and Rhaenyra just casually murdered a random person to help them in the previous episode. No side is good in this.
Enticed him in the first place.
Poor girl.
Swear on my life.
This world is not kind to girls.
Why? What is it today?
Fuck. He has grown into being just the spoiled little brat. Indulgent little privileged prince. He should not be king.
You are no son of mine.
I try so hard, but it will never be enough for you or father.
It's like, in some ways there is a mirror here, because that is how she is with her father. She has done everything he asked, but she's also not a rapist. You know? It took her 15 years to vaguely snap. Sir, this is no excuse to rape girls.
It subjects him to considerable pain on the advice of the maesters.
The maesters, of course. It is they who keep him...
Both sides see the worst in each other.
While the High Towers warm his throne.
I do believe, Alison, that Viserys, from what we've seen, is in crippling pain. and does need milk of the poppy to try and soothe some of it. Most likely it is a happy coincidence for the Hightowers that they're able to making the most of his illness, but from the little bit we saw of him, he needs that medication. He's a living corpse in agony. It's like, to show off how dark their hair is, they both have so much of it. These do seem like better children.
What's your problem?
Probably because they are half strong.
Nephews? Have you come to train?
Oof. A Game of Thrones, whether they be smaller thrones or bigger thrones, is a tangled one. Like, I don't totally disagree with this guy not wanting some random other house's kids to have his ancestral home.
My queen, what we do for the good of the realm.
She'd be far better off without her father.
Uneasiness. We must, of course, act in the interest of our subjects.
She would make far better choices without these men.
Forget your grace.
She just wants to do the right thing and do what is right.
Claim my son illegitimate.
Yet you did worse than that with Laenor,
You wanted people to believe this.
did you not?
Rhaena will rule in Driftmark, and the seat will pass to her and Lucera's children in time.
A generous offer.
It would put the Valerians back on their own throne, but
One. What tomorrow the Hightowers land their first blow.
they will
They'll
try.
force you to your knees.
Are they gonna somehow revive Viserys? Or is Corlys gonna be like alive and zoom in?
By naming me heir, you divided the realm.
Help. Love of you. And at the time, for want of better options. She'd be a far better queen than frickin' Aegon, but...
If you wish me to bear it, then defend me. And my children.
Yep. He's too ill. Maybe he'll make an appearance, but he's too ill. You should have been fighting for your claim from the beginning. Rhaenyra. My heart does break for her. I don't want any of them in these positions. I want to live in an alternate universe where everyone gets to be happy, and that is not Westeros.
It is the great hope of this court that Lord Corlys Velaryon survive his wounds.
I feel like this episode either has to end with
We
Corlys
gather here with
walking
the
in like, I survived,
dealing with the succession of Driftmark.
or with Rhaenyra getting her way.
And I speak.
I place the continuation of the survival of my house and my line above all. I humbly put myself before you as my brother's successor.
Valerian House dies out by our
Lord of Driftmark.
Robert's Rebellion-esque era.
If I am to grace this fast with some answer, I will start by reminding the court that nearly 20 years ago in this very...
The king? Yep. Here to defend his daughter, as always.
And the first men.
He is willing to divide the entire kingdom for Rhaenyra. Would that we all had fathers that loved us that much. Doing it for you. You needed to make stands like this far sooner. Yep. Brothers united at the end, common cause. Just like Daemon wanted, by marrying Rhaenyra. There's such nuance to all of these characters, and I love it so much. The more concept of monarchies are ridiculous if you think about them, but we would not have this show without it.
Marry her sons Jace and Luke to Lord Corlys's granddaughters, Baela and Rhaena. A proposal to which I heartily agree.
Yep.
Well,
Gonna be their biggest allegiance is now the other way. How could anyone want Aegon to be king? But can we just...
I reaffirm
My sons are shit, let's just make peace.
of House Velaryon.
You
And
break
thus-
law
Yeah.
and centuries of tradition to install your daughter as heir. Yet you dare tell me He deserves to inherit the name Velaryon. I will not allow it.
Allow it.
I mean, it is a bit rich in general, both ways.
That is no true Velaryon. And certain
Is my true-born grandson.
Yeah, but it's not his.
not see it ended.
It's gonna end, I'm afraid.
Say it.
Damon will probably kill you.
Bastards!
Fuck.
And she is a whore.
He's just signed his own death warrant.
Well, have your tongue for that.
I thought Damon was going to kill him, and that was why he wanted him to say it.
Disarm him!
This isn't justice! None of this is justice, either. Like, obviously, none of this is justice. This whole episode, the whole thing of hearing petitions. To be honest, when they have a genuine thing of, like, those are not my blood, they shouldn't be inheriting the throne, it's justice to hear him out. I mean, it fucking knows it's true. In the modern day and age, modern day and age, adoption would count, so it wouldn't make a difference. Rhaenys backing up her family line by backing up what Corlys wanted and keeping the Velaryons on the throne through the girls makes perfect sense. Daemon just executing him without any judgment from the king as well. Like, this isn't justice, but it's one rule for them, one rule for everyone else. Is that how it works? You've left it too late. You know, Vaemond, whatever his name is, his pride got him killed because he was determined his house had to stay there, and it's just all a mess. No side in this thing is clean. No side in this thing is obeying the law. One side more blatantly than the other. What a wonderful family dinner this is.
You've grown so distant from each other in the years past.
Distant is one way to put it.
Not just a king, but your father, your brother, your husband.
This was a tune you should have been preaching a long time ago.
Let us no longer hold.
You should have done this 10 years ago. Poor man.
Stand strong.
I wish to raise my cup to Her Grace the Queen.
Whoa. For real?
I love my father, but I must admit that no one has stood more loyally by his side than his good wife.
Rhaenyra's going for it?
She has tended to him with unfailing devotion, love, and
Wouldn't it be nice if this could actually be a night that brought everyone together?
And for that, she has my gratitude and my apology.
We're both mothers. And we love our children.
It's what drove Alicent to start all of this in her mind.
We have more in common than we sometimes allow.
They were like sisters once. More than that.
You will make a fine queen.
Without Otto, I truly think that's what Alicent believed. You know, we had her episodes and episodes ago, like 15 years ago even within the show, saying, like, should I raise my son to take his sister's throne? You know, she would have stood beside them. If only they could have talked way back then.
If you ever wish to know what it is to be well satisfied, all you have to do is ask.
And here we go. It's not as simple. The next generation have been bred into this. Aegon is a dick. I mean, if Aegon could just slip and fall, we'd all be better off.
Be married soon. It isn't so bad. Mostly he just ignores you.
He's going to please her instead. The Rhaenyra should have been hosting these meals since he first married Alicent to try and boost and bolster love between all of them. Oh, he's gonna have one last good night and then die where everyone was happy and there was hope. And then it's gonna be chaos and carnage, right?
Final tribute.
And everything was going so well.
Wise. Strong.
Aemond.
Come.
Fuck.
Let us drain our cups.
They are very strong.
Three strong boys.
I dare you to say that again.
Why? It was only a compliment.
You're very strong.
Think yourself strong.
This will be happening on battlefield sooner than later.
Why would you say such a thing before these people?
Petty younger sons can recognise petty younger sons. It was so nice for a whole 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Alicent wants to make
I think
friends.
if we go back to Dragonstone.
You've only just arrived.
Like, there is genuine affection and memory of affection here. If the world were
Send the
different,
children home.
they deserve this.
The king and I would both like that.
That closeness doesn't go away. We just need Otto to slip and fall off a cliff.
Lady.
This woman has her spies everywhere.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You have a lot to be sorry for to this woman you married as a child.
What you wanted to know. If I believe it to be true.
Fuck.
Aegon.
Our son.
What he saw in the north.
Someone who should not hear it is hearing this.
It was promised. To unite the realm. Against the cold. And the dark.
God, is she going to think now he wants Aegon to take the throne? What did she take from that? Does she think he wants her to put Aegon on the throne? Does he think he wants her to heal the breach? There he goes. Okay, this is such an interesting episode. I'm guessing Viserys died at the end there, so that's going to be extremely interesting going forwards. The whole concept of this episode with, you know, Vaemond, was that it? But the Corlys's brother wanting to assert his right, and you have to feel for him to a degree because the boy that is going to inherit his family's ancestral seat is not from his family, not even a little bit from his family. Now, I think to a degree you can kind of, I think the idea of marrying, it's not Viserys, I keep mishearing him, I'm thinking his name is also Viserys, but no, it's Lucerys, to Rhaena, puts a Valyrian blood back in the line. The name will stay with them because he's, for all intents and purposes, Lucerys Velaryon, and then the Velaryon blood comes back in through Rhaena and everything's put to right. I think in that degree, that is a solution that does soothe things. I think certainly there is a small part of old Vaemond, or whatever his name was, who wanted the power for himself, who resented being the younger brother. And that is a theme you've seen throughout this show with Daemon, with him, and with Aemond. This kind of, what is it like when just from a random circumstance of birth, you were born second? That's why the whole idea of monarchies and titles and going down through family lines is a load of crap. But it makes for juicy stories like this, so I love it in a fantasy setting. In the real world, I'll publish it. So that was such an interesting concept. And with what would they all do? I think Rhaenys, at the end of the day, saw that there could be bloodshed, or there could be something that put her family back there. What's the point of all this fighting and everything? Now, I find it interesting because I suppose she thinks with the power of Driftmark and the Velaryons and the power of Dragonstone, Rhaenyra and everything, they will win. If there is a civil war, they will win. But people are starting to put down their markers. I think when it came down to it, Rhaenys did do what Corlys wanted, and Rhaenyra had suggested a situation, a scenario in which the Velaryon blood ended up back at Driftmark, even if it was a little bit of a twisty-turvy way. Now, I think it's so interesting, and something that I'm really enjoying with this show is that neither side is good and neither side is bad. This is not a show to watch if you're expecting everything one side does to be perfect and pearly and white, because it's just not the case. I do think a character like Alicent has done her best to obey the laws. Obviously that hasn't always, no one is perfect up until maybe future events, and Rhaenyra, other than her adultery, has obeyed laws as well. But you have someone like Daemon just executed that man. Now, the king was like, I will have your tongue for this. If Daemon had held him down and cut out his tongue, you could be like, yeah, the king told him to do that. And the king had previously said anybody that questions the legitimacy of these boys will have their tongues cut out. So, like, that would have made sense. But chopping his head in half? That was not legal. That was tyranny. That was, you know... and I think it's very interesting in this episode that you have kind of Daemon and Rhaenyra being like, well, Rhaenyra in particular sort of being like, oh, you know, Rhaenys is never going to support us because she thinks we killed her son. You wanted everybody to think you killed her son. Like, you intentionally did that in such a way that it would bolster the fear of what you might do next in your enemies. And I get that they couldn't really go to Corlys and Rhaenys and be like, by the way, your son just skipped town. He's fine. So I thought that was sort of the immediate consequences coming home, but ultimately they managed to swerve the begin. Rhaenyra is very lucky, but she's also very skillful. When she tries, she's so skillful at navigating difficult situations. It's why I wish from the moment she was proclaimed as heir, she and her father, when he was with his full mind, had been working to build up her support, had been working to win over the lords, had been working to win over the common people, had just been doing their job to make the fact that, you know, it shouldn't be a huge deal that a woman is becoming queen, but it is a huge deal that a woman will be becoming queen. They should have been steadying that the whole way through and securing Alicent that, don't worry, your sons are fine, you know, we're going to marry them to heiresses, we're going to give them this land or that land, you know, kind of doing something to be like, everyone wins here, rather than it kind of just going in this very strange way where Rhaenyra did absolutely nothing to further her claim and then was like, I should have everything. Now she's doing stuff now. I do love her as a character, and I think a lot of that was because she was a child, so I'm not actually criticising her. It's more Viserys' short-sightedness, of if anything. And him, I think enough of Rhaenyra's plea got through to him. Plus, you know, I don't think they gave him milk of the poppy to be cruel or horrible. I think he was a man suffering from a terrible wasting disease, in terrible pain, and taking that stuff soothed his pain. But I do also think it had the flip side of making him unable to govern, which meant that they could do whatever they wanted. It's a lot. I thought a particularly key... I'll get to that in a minute. So him turning up to the council meeting, to the discussion of the succession, was a very pivotal moment. It was a pivotal moment of him showing his support for Rhaenyra. And I think often when you're at the end of your life, people... I mean, I see it in fiction a lot. But often in hindsight, you can look back and you think, I handled this terribly. And he did his best in this episode to repair the breaches. I do think it was too little too late. Now, I think if all along Alicent had been left, like if literally, I mean, ideally Alicent could have married someone her own age and not someone old enough to be her grandfather. But if Alicent had married Viserys and then Otto had gone out, got really drunk celebrating and fallen off a cliff, the world would be a much better place. Alicent would be happier. She and Rhaenyra would have found their way back to their friendship. They would have raised their children to respect each other, to be close. You know, things would have been better without Otto dripping that poison into Alicent's ear and making her see the world the way she does. So with that, in this episode there was the key moment of they arrived and then there was like, oh my queen, your guests have arrived, and then did they have the Otto, like did they get the welcome they deserved? And you kind of had a beat where Alicent was like, what? And then he was like, yes they did, just as you arranged, sir. And then Alicent was immediately like, gotta end this meeting, I need to go. Alicent does what is right. Alicent does things by the book. Alicent obeys the rules and the customs of etiquette. It is customary that when an important guest arrives, you go and greet them. She would have greeted them. That's what she wanted to do. She would have apologised for the delay. She did not know about the snubbing of their arrival. That was purely Otto with his little subtle power moves. And I think we're still seeing that she and he are they're not in one. They are at odds. I think Alicent leans on him largely because he is literally the only person here who is claiming to be there for her and her children. He's largely there for his own power and his own business. He sent his daughter to the king. I do not like Otto Hightower. I think he's not the worst king in the worst hand to the king in the world. I think in the first episodes in particular, his judgment was fairly sound. It was just purely he also had personal motivations. But there is always going to be a danger with naming a woman as queen, whether it is foreign nations thinking you're weak and coming to invade. Again, it is to do with the patriarchal preconceptions that they have in Westeros and its adjacent kingdoms and whatnot. And with the other lords not wanting to submit to a queen when like 30 years earlier they'd be like, yeah, we aren't doing queens. So it's frustrating in a lot of ways that Otto uses his daughter like this. But the key moment for me was when, so they had this feast, Viserys called them all together, and I was just thinking, this is going to be a bloodbath by the end. The last time these families were together, there were eyes going everywhere. But the fact that they sat there, and Viserys made quite a compelling speech. And the moment when Rhaenyra stood up and genuinely, at least it seemed genuine, and I think it was able to think, God, look at my father, look at all the suffering he's been going through, and I've been gone for these years, I've been living my life. Alicent's entire youth has been caring for this man while he's sick. That has been her whole youth. I think she truly was acknowledging Alicent's care for her husband and being there for him. I think she likely does realise Otto is largely to do with it all, but as I said at the time, if they could have just had a really long freaking conversation where they were both honest about the state of the world and where they were in it all those years ago, things would have been 1,000 times better for them both. But it was also a conversation that would realistically never happen in the world they lived in. So that moment I thought was huge. And then when Alicent was touched by it and kind of reciprocated and then said the words, "You will be a great queen," and you saw Otto like, because yes, okay, she's literally just saying it in front of their immediate family members. At the end of the day, no one is going to hold her to those words. But it was a big thing. And even when she was like saying, "Oh, you must come back, you've just arrived," I think there is that part of Alicent that misses her friend and misses the connection they had and doesn't want to believe all these terrible things her father has made her believe and wants their families to be able to be close. Potentially, in a lot of ways, the damage has already been done in their children, and that is a result of Otto Hightower and Viserys' short-sightedness, in my opinion. Yes, I think some of the way Alicent has dealt with and talked to Aegon about the claim to the throne and what Rhaenyra would do to them, I don't agree with in those previous episodes, but it was very much, I think, echoing the way she was raised, and I don't approve of that, but it was her she truly believes her children are in this potential danger, and so she has to wake them up to it. Aegon is a whole other story. He is a vile man who I hope falls off a cliff. Basically, the only one of Alicent's children I like is Helena. She is unique, and we love her for it. Aegon, like, Aemond is at least an interesting character. I'm terrified of him and what he's going to do next, but I do find him fascinating. Aegon is just vile. Yeah, I hope he falls from a cliff. He and Otto could just fall from a cliff together, and everything would be fine. No. And I think the scene with Alicent, again, there would be people who would have had that girl killed. There would have been people in this world who would have been like, she has a dirty secret on our prince, boom, dead. Or there would have been people who would have just said to her, "Oh, so you're a whore and you came onto the prince and he didn't want to make you his mistress." You know, there would have been people who would have handled that situation far worse than what Alicent did. I'm glad she, was kind to her before she paid her off and made her drink the abortion, or the morning after pill. Now there's obviously Daemon's old mistress has a lot of information going on. At the end of the day, I don't know what a big of a deal that would have been in Westeros. Prince sleeps with servant girl. You know, this kind of, from my standpoint, I'm like, Daemon, walk straight off that cliff, do not pass go, get out of my sight, you vile piece of shit. But within Westeros and medieval kingdoms, men did what they wanted. And especially to poor people. I mean, in the previous episode, Daemon snapped around a man's neck and threw him in a fire to fake a murder. We don't care about poor people in this show. But I thought it was interesting to see that dilemma, to see kind of the way Alicent did feel sorry for this girl. I think you saw it both in how she talked to her, and you saw it in her face when she was taking the morning after tea. She truly was upset that this had happened and horrified at her son. And you know, and you were no son of mine. I think Alison is fully trapped in all of this. You know, she does not like her eldest son, the one that this is all for. Aemond is at least very supportive, but also, you know, bloody loose cannon. Helena is lovely, and you love her, but she wouldn't make a particularly good queen right now. She's also a child. I think Alison is extremely lost, both within her own family and within the world. She's trying to do everything right, trying to do everything by the book, and just when she thinks she's figured it out, something comes along and flips it all on its head. I still feel immensely sorry for her. I believe she was genuine in that kind of, maybe we could all reconcile, maybe Viserys is right. Now, the moment Viserys croaks, everything is off. This is back when it's going to be back into, like, you know, Otto being like, oh, they're going to come for you. You saw the argument, the boys hate each other, they're going to come for your sons, they're not safe. You know, and with, she's grandchildren now as well, I think, right? Because Helena mentioned the children, which, poor child. So, like, there's even grandchildren at stake right now. Like, there's a lot going on. Also, Rhaenyra and Daemon naming their firstborn, Aegon, is a bit of a slap in the face, because Aegon is obviously a name that was chosen because of its conqueror regions. It's a bit of a, like, weird one too. But regardless, I could definitely see someone like Otto playing on that they murdered Laenor to get what they wanted. And, you know, Daemon told, maybe Rhaenyra would hesitate, but do you think Daemon would? There's definitely a lot of dangers lurking in the surface and a lot of fears to be played on. But that moment when Alicent said, we're both mothers who want the best for our children, we just care about our children, we have a lot more in common. I am going to live in a fantasy world where there is a shift in the universe and where things get fixed and they become best friends again and everything's lovely. Now, that would not make for a TV show. I mean, it would, and I would watch it, but it wouldn't make for one that everyone else would watch. Otto definitely is going to be working his little manipulative ways. Plus, it could be too little too late because the kids hate each other so much. The strong boys, they just have so much dark hair. You know, like, you think you'd trim their hair so they had a little bit less. They just have so much hair, and it's so the wrong colour, and their skin is the wrong colour, and everything. But, yeah. When Aemond was like, they're intelligent and handsome and strong. I mean, why are you taking offence to that? I did really enjoy that line. It was such a dick movie. Like, things were going really nicely between the families. But I think Aemond in particular, he both has that kind of Daemon-esque, I want more. You know, I was born second, I want more than I have. We saw that with the Velaryon second son as well. Why should I settle for less? I want. But I thought it's kind of, he's also got a quite, I think probably being bullied didn't help. It brought out that edge in him, though it's no excuse, people get bullied and they don't become like this. And then those boys took his eye. Now, again, you got a dragon out of it. He hates them and that is never going anywhere. I think it's gonna be sad to see this family destroy each other, but ultimately it survives for a couple hundred more years. Where is this all gonna go? And are they going to announce that Viserys is dead? Obviously, Rhaenyra is planning to take her children home and to fly back on her dragon. I know when King Henry VIII died, they didn't announce it for 3 days because they were securing the succession. So it's quite a common thing that they would keep deaths of monarchs secret and so that they could make sure the succession is free. And in that case, it was so that certain lords could claim the Lord Protectorship role of his young son. There's a lot that's going to be happening going forward. I'm very stressed about it. Kind of happy for Viserys that, you know, he can be at peace now with Emma. He seems to think, my love, that she was there, and she'll be like, why did you marry a child? You married our daughter's best friend weeks after I died. And let's talk about how I died. But anyway, he's at peace now, and at least he died thinking everything was lovely because everyone was happy. Even if potentially Alicent were to try and make things up with Rhaenyra, I potentially think the kids are too far gone. We'd need to keep them very separate from each other. But yeah, this was a fantastic episode again. I feel like this episode was very much, we're 6 years later, we're establishing where everything is now, we are saying potentially farewell to Viserys, and we are seeing build up the last 2 episodes of the season. Fantastic. A reminder that you can find an edited version of this reaction on my Patreon, and thank you so much for watching.